Seattle against, because I come from a really small town in Idaho, Lewiston, Clarkston, Idaho, Washington border, I'd say about 50,000 people. So when we decided to get in a band, and there was 2 other bands that influenced us, it was kind of like we were the only ticket in town. So everyone that liked that type of music, which back then was kind of punk or indie rock, whatever you want to call it, in the 90s, everyone came. That, you know, there wasn't really promotion or a sense of community. It was just anyone that had a guitar would probably be there. When I came to Seattle, it was like 1997, and me and my friend Gino were trying to break in with our band Lazy Comet, and it was just really hard to find any place to play other than these weird out-of-the-way places. This booker named Shorty, who I think still works, is this little trolley hobbity guy, and he booked us at this place called the Ballard Firehouse. You know, and it was like, we didn't know what we were doing. We'd show up and we'd play to nobody in front of us, and in a way we always thought that guy was kind of a dick, like, hey, where are the people at? Aren't you supposed to do something as a promoter? But now, what, 15 years later, I'm that guy, and I'm probably having people ask that same questions about me. In regards to the sense of community, I think it's pretty inclusive here. If you find a band that likes you and will champion you, and they can speak nice of you, you can start creating your own clique. But busting into that KEXP or stranger clique is almost impossible unless you know somebody. So, you know, coming from somewhere else to here it's nearly impossible. Even if you're good, it sometimes doesn't matter if you're good. It matters if you're connected with certain people. So when I'm booking bands, both out of town and in town, I just try to, most of all, make a cohesive build. It either sinks or swim by the amount of the promotion done by the artists themselves, but if it's going to sink, then I'd rather have it all sound pretty cool and somewhat similar, at least, maybe not in genre, but in intensity or fame of the show. The best thing about being a booker in Seattle is just, I don't know, bring in a lot of bands. They play and they've had such bad experience with bookers. Where, let's say they're trying to crack into a place and they get a Wednesday night and they're playing with 2 bands that couldn't be any farther from what they're doing in spirit or in genre or anything. So what I like is, or what really feels good, the best part to me is when somebody from a band comes up at the end of the night and says, wow, not only is this night awesome, and wow, we made 20-30 bucks, which is really the extent of a lot of the shows that I book, unfortunately. But we met 2 other bands that we're not only going to listen to, but we're going to contact about other shows at other places, and just kind of create a sense of community. That feels as good or better than the nights that really pop and where there's like 150 people at the mix in Georgetown, and everybody gets paid a lot of money and everybody's happy. That's pretty rewarding too, but really just kind of introducing maybe a fledgling band or a band that's kind of toiled in obscurity, introduce them to at least 2 other people on the same bill that they can be simpatico with and carry on and maybe become like a super band someday, maybe because of that connection I made with them. So it's kind of that's the positive thing. The worst thing is just having to be the parental figure or the authority figure, trying to tell people like, hey, why have you posted on your Facebook page of, say, for the past 7 days leading up to the show what you ate in the morning, but you can't mention once that you have a show coming up on a weekend. So it's kind of like finding new and interesting ways of being an asshole, telling them to, that, you know, basically, does this matter to you? Is this something you want to do? If it is, people aren't going to show up just because you're a good musician. They're going to show up because you ask them to, or you tell them it's important to you that they watch you live, or that you're passionate about it and you'd like to share that with people. So that's kind of the toughest nut to crack, and there's a lot of musicians that would rather not take the time to do that, and the hardest part, I feel, is to tell them you have to do that, and most are pretty receptive to it, but there's a few that aren't, and it kind of bums me out, but I try to practice what I preach being in other bands as well. And there's a formula, I think, at least to try as hard as you can, and if you fail, well, at least you tried. Better than not trying at all and failing. Well, as I had mentioned before, I got here in '97. I don't think I played like a real quote unquote show until about 2001. And it really wasn't, I think it wasn't that we weren't ready to play or anything, it's just we didn't know anybody. And playing in a band, it's just a tough nut to crack. You gotta toil through those Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday bills, meet some people. But you also gotta remember, once you do get that shot at a Saturday or something, it's almost like everything's a trial. And a lot of bookers forget who you are, and a year later or two, they might book you, even if you failed miserably. But I've always thought leaving a good impression upon people, not only musically, but you know, showing them my personality, not shying away from talking to the sound guy, the bartender, the booker. It's always nice to be able to just, you know, say, here's who I am. You like me, like my music, or you don't, but I'm not gonna just be someone that fades away into obscurity. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to hear about me for a while. I'm passionate about my music. Seattle Times writer Tom Scanlon described me as beyond the pale, which I think means like so ridiculous and so out there that it might be kind of good. I guess like a terrible movie. I guess that's kind of my personality as well. So being a solo artist, I really never tried to pin myself down to a certain sound. The last couple of releases I've made, they're just all over the place, from things with beats to straight solo guitar, instrumentals. There's no real genre that can hold me, and in a way that may turn some people off, but I have so many influences on me as a solo musician and as just being in a band, that if I don't like check that off my list or use that notion that popped up in my head, I feel like I'm ripping myself off. And as far as being in a band, now currently I'm in a band called The Valley, and they have a tenure of about 10 years in Seattle. I played with them back in 2001, and we just started playing together again, me as their bass player, in 2012. And it's kind of nice to be in a band where you already establish yourself as someone that can, you know, draw consistently, put on a good performance, and people know you by name. Many of the bands before that, it was always like working from the ground up. Since I've been in Seattle, I think I've been in like 7 or 8 different bands. So it's kind of nice coming into this one with already a certain amount of, I don't know what the word is, credibility. So it's hard for me to say what it's like in other towns. I've always dreamed of like going to a place like, I don't know, just some place that isn't known for its music, let's say like Denver or something. And what if I showed up there and played a solo act? Would I, on a Monday night or something, would I instantly get these weekend gigs, or would I have to do the whole 10 years sweeping in? I'm not sure. Or what would it be like going to some place like Nashville or Austin, where it isn't known for its music? I don't know. It would be interesting. I think Seattle has what I think Seattle is good at is its openness to not only adventure into new genres, subgenres, different types of music, but also to not hang with them too long, not to beat it to death, move on to the next thing. And I think a lot of bands do that, even from album to album. There's a lot of local bands where their first release is something that I really dig, and their second release is something like I'm not quite understanding, but maybe they've matured and I haven't. Maybe they've matured musically and my ear hasn't matured enough yet. So it's nice to see a constant movement, nothing static in Seattle, and that's what I like about that.